We're in step 6, which is planning and preparing to teach a family school lesson plan. And you can see we're back to the dashboard where most families will start the day. They'll log in, they'll come to their dashboard, they'll click on the lesson for the day. If we were looking at tomorrow's schedule, you would see creating a student binder. That'd be the first lesson up from the calendar or the teaching calendar that we set up in the last step. You can also advance, and you can see lessons for days in the future. If you want to click that, kind of like that quick view or quick advance, or you can look back and see what lessons you taught in the previous day if that's helpful. We can also just go to the view calendar tab right there and go back to the calendar that we just created. Let's just look at this, this schedule. I wanted to use a lesson that, let's go to October. Oh, we're only looking at we only generated the calendar for a short period of time, so it's only showing us. Let's go back to 12 months. It's actually okay that that happens so that you can see why that would be the case. Now we can go back to the calendar since we have a 12-month schedule here. It was only showing us 1 month, which is by default what it does because most people only really want to look at what's going on that day, let alone next week or this month. And so it generates automatically the calendar month by month. But if we wanted to look at that schedule later and see what courses are coming, we could do that. Let's say that it is the 29th of May. You could also click on the lesson from within your calendar, and you can just click on the lesson and go to that lesson from your calendar as well. So you have a little widget on your dashboard that you can click on, but you also can go to the calendar and click on it from there. Regardless of how you get there, here's a lesson plan. And some of the things you might think of and want to consider in this plan and prepare step as you get ready to teach a family school lesson plan is, one, which version of the lesson plan do I want to teach? And which handouts do I need for that version? And what I mean by version is, do I want the original deep dive version, which is the whole lesson plan that was originally authored when we first started back in any time between August of 2012 until August of last year when we completed this kind of the 6-year scope and sequence for family school. And we call that the deep dive version because it's all the content. It's a 45-minute to an hour lesson. And it's what probably 50% of our families use. But we also have now just recently created this open and go lesson that a lot of families love as well, especially families with children who have some attention challenges that are younger, a mother or a father who just doesn't have as much time in the day to teach family school. Those are some of the reasons why you might look at this open and go lesson plan. It's a condensed lesson plan, and you can see some instant differences between deep dive and open and go just before we even scroll. But the deep dive lesson plan will include the entire research section. You can see this is the original research section. This is another research section in this lesson. There are two. And then we get to the second R, which is reason. And then we get to the third R, relate, and the record is something we'll talk about in a little bit, but that's the fourth R. Now you saw how much content that deep dive version has. And so let's go over to open and go and you kind of get a feel for what we've done with these lessons. This is the research section, the first one. This is the second one already. Lots of pictures, perhaps even more pictures in this one, because everything is supposed to be in line, the videos, the images, and anything that's used. Less text, more images, optional activity. Instead of including this as part of this lesson, it just condensed it to an optional activity. So you can take a look at it, it's still there, the content's still there, but you don't need to feel like you have to do it in order to complete the lesson. Moving on to the research section, we have a couple questions. 3 questions there, it's 1 quote, it's very simple, and the relate section has been condensed as well. So that's the open and go lesson plan. So just, first decide how much time you have available or what the interest abilities are or attention abilities, I should say, and interests of your children are, and then decide which one. Once you've decided which one you want to teach, stay on that one, because once you click on preparation, it's going to show you the resources that are needed for that lesson. So if I'm teaching the open and go lesson, then I click on preparation and look at the materials for this lesson. You can see I need a small bag of M&Ms. This is optional because it's an optional activity. So know that this isn't required in this lesson. It's just one of those optional activities. But we do need a jar with a metal lid, a hammer and a nail for poking holes in the jar lid. Probably going to be collecting some insects, I have a feeling, in this lesson, just from the looks of that materials list. A printed photo of each child that they will attach to the record page. And then we have a flashcard that we introduce. If you have the printed flashcards, you can grab that flashcard and have it ready for the lesson. If you don't have the printed flashcards, you can always just open up the flashcard digitally. This is you can flip it over and you can see the back side of that flashcard. You can skip to the next one. If you want to review the previous flashcards, you can do that as well. This is one of one. It's only pulling up that one flashcard, so you actually can't go to the previous ones. Anyway, and then lesson printables. Look at this list here, and it'll show you what lesson plan resources are needed for this one. This is, we need this arthropod card, print one set for each student or pair of students. And each of these handouts, you can see what it's required. One for parent. This is just for you as a teacher. And this is something that you would want to print off for your children. This is a link. This is the icon for a link. So just check it, make sure that it's working. That's a nice thing to do while you're planning and preparing as well, to just make sure these links work. Sometimes we find a link that's broken. If you find that a link is broken, it's not going to anything, then you actually don't need to do anything. You can report the issue if you'd like, but just the act of clicking on a link that's broken actually automatically sends a message to us, and we fix those within 24 hours. At least we try to. That's the goal. But click on the handouts as well. If it says print one for each child or print one for you, then you can go ahead and do that here. There's a print option there. You can download it and print it, whatever is easiest for you. But you can see this is the handout. These are the handouts that are included coincidentally in the printed handout packets. And so if you have a lesson plan handout packet, then it would be in there, and you could just use that one and make copies of it, or you could get multiple packets for students and for teachers. But this would be a teacher handout because it's in the lesson plan itself, and it would be included in the teacher handout packet. And then because it's using a lesson plan and it says print for each student, then you would print off multiple copies for your children, however many you need. And that's pretty much it for planning for a lesson. I don't think there are anything else significant. It's not very time consuming. I guess one other recommendation would be to just look at the words that are going to come up in this vocabulary list that are new and be familiar with those, because you'll probably want to help your children with them as you get to that word in the lesson. And then just read through it. Read through the lesson. It's always a great idea to read through the lesson, because then when you teach the lesson, you're not just reading the words off the page. You're kind of using the lesson plan as an outline, as a template. You're just looking at the paragraph and you're remembering more or less the concept that you're teaching or the principle that you're teaching. You're teaching it in your own words, in your own way. You're inviting the Spirit into that instruction. We'll talk more about that on the next step, which is teach and learn.